few words about my experience with sexual violence. So I'm just gonna give like a trigger warning beforehand. I'm a second year student at the university here in Nottingham, and that means I've been here for about like less than 2 years. So in my first few months here, I was harassed on the streets at night by a group of drunk men and had to enter a random building and wait for them to leave. I'm also sorry if I break down like halfway, I'm quite an emotional person. In the months leading up to the first lockdown, I was sexually assaulted by a bouncer at a club. He groped my breast several times and threatened to kick me out of the line when I called him out. Both these experiences already place me as a part of the 97% of women who've experienced sexual harassment / assault to some degree. 3 weeks ago, right here in Nottingham, I was raped in my own home. Sorry. My body was violated and no longer mine in that moment. Within what must have been a few minutes, but felt like forever, my life was ruined. That same night, I had my stuff taken away by the police. I was left further exposed as nurses examined my whole body. I was having to repeat the details of my trauma over and over when all I wanted to do was forget. After that, I went to several hospital appointments, had a number of shots and medicine thrown my way, had constant calls from the support services. It was just a lot to take in. I no longer felt safe walking the streets. I kept imagining that I might bump into him, and my breath catches every single time I see someone who looks even slightly like him. Sleep no longer comes easily. I'm up most nights till 5, 6, 7 a.m. Most times I'm crying myself to sleep, while other times I'm doing everything to distract myself from thinking, so drinking, smoking and all that. I've set out this to try and convey what it feels like to be a victim of such horrid trauma, but I don't think I'll ever be able to put that into words. I can only hope that no one goes through the same, but I know that so many people have. With barely a week for me to begin the process of healing, we get the news of Sarah Everard, and my freshly cut wounds are ripped back open as more and more women begin to speak up. It was both the best and worst thing. I learned that I was not alone, so here I am with a Speak to Speak and a new community of women supporting me and showing me love. Thank you. A new community of women supporting me and showing me love after I dug myself in a hole and harmed myself secretly, believing that somehow this was my fault and that life would never be the same for me, but this man could walk about like he hadn't just torn my life to shreds. But these aren't the circumstances by which I want to form community. The past few weeks have been filled with brave women speaking up and sharing their experiences with sexual violence. This was all sparked by the case of Sarah Everard, but let's also not forget the countless other women that have been the victims of such brutal violence. Remember Blessing Olusegun, Nicole Smallman, Bibba Henry, and even those close to you, survivors of such terrible violence and harassment. The media has painted Sarah to be a professional woman who did everything right. This is both classist and victim shaming, as if to say working class women are more deserving targets, as if to say there's a right way to avoid what is actually a structural issue. Sarah did the right things, yet today she's no longer with us. May her soul rest in peace. This only goes to show that there is no form of responsibility that should be put on us women to avoid these things. Tell rapists not to rape. Tell young boys that they aren't entitled to other people's bodies. Teach consent. And do all this without limiting women and how we are able to live when society doesn't do the same thing with men. We've sparked a conversation about systems and structures of power like the patriarchy, capitalism, the police, all of this that stands to harm the most marginalized amongst us. And what has the government done in response? They promised us streetlights and police in plain clothing, because why not give abusers of power easier access to those who they target? Instead of tackling issues at their core, they've basically thrown a plaster over a burst water pipe and expect us to settle for that. And not only are they refusing to tackle gender-based violence, they decided to bring up this disgusting PCSC bill in response to the Extinction Rebellion and BLM protests. They've chosen to silence us and we cannot stand for it. I am aware that that a number of people are only now privy to police/state violence. But as a Black woman, this has been something that operates at the center of my lived experiences. Our fight against police brutality did not just start now, and it won't finish until we've done right by holding these structures of power to account. Whether this be by reform or abolition, it will be done. So I stand up here saying, kill the bill that threatens to have protesters locked up for longer than rapists and child molesters, the bill that prioritizes damaged property over our lives. I stand up here saying, reclaim the streets so that women can be safe instead of having to be brave. I stand up here to remind you that this at its core is only a worthy fight if it is intersectional. So remember women of color, trans women, and those who are gender non-conforming, women with disabilities, and every other marginalized group that is the target of gender-based violence and police and state violence. Remember that this is a movement and not a moment. The government is relying on us to get tired and give up, but we need to keep this conversation going in every way that we can. We are all deserving of safety and protection. I also just want to give a quick thank you to all the women who supported me through reporting and through healing. So thank you to the amazing women at the Topaz Sexual Assault Referral Center. I love you guys so much. To the nurses at the Sexual Health Clinic, to the women handling my case who are constantly reaching out to check up on me, to my sister, to my flatmate/bestie who's here with me today, to my friends and all the women I've met in the process of organizing these past few weeks, and to you all, you've all saved me. Thank you.